Hey there, everybody. Welcome. This is another Panda webinar. Good to talk to the Panda Nation. I really appreciate everyone for showing up. Today is kind of a little bit of a reunion. We've specifically invited folks who have been with us for a little bit of time now, and it's a good opportunity for us to revisit some of the configuration options maybe that have changed a little bit since we initially launched your accounts. I wanted to welcome you, everybody who's attending. We really appreciate you very, very much. So let's kind of focus just for a second on kind of who we are, what's going on, all these crazy things that are going on this particular webcast. We absolutely had a blast coming up with the content for this webinar. And one of the things that I thought was exciting to share is that we came up with so many cool ideas and came up with so many things that we wanted to talk about that we realized we actually have an opportunity here for not just one webinar, but probably a series of webinars. So be on the lookout for extra content from us. We think that it's a cool idea to revisit, make sure that, we're not just catering to the new folks and the new pandas. We want to cater to those pandas who have been with us for the long hauls. We want to keep all of our panda peeps absolutely happy and as productive and working as smart as possible. So we're going to be taking a look at what's new. Now, who are we? The people who are talking, you may have seen us on previous webinars or from our training materials. My name is Erica. I'm a software training specialist. With me is Tessa. She is our client outreach specialist, and she is going to be manning the question and answer. So this is a good segue to get into some of the housekeeping notes for this particular style of webinar. If you haven't attended one before like this, it is a little bit interactive. It's kind of cool. You'll notice all the cool little windows. You can expand or collapse those. If there's something you want to take a look at and regard a little more closely, please feel free to do so. We are going to be asking for your feedback, which we value very, very much at the end of the webinar today. So we've got the survey material, the little boxes that you see with the cute icons. Those are referred to as widgets. You can click on them. It includes resources. We've got some cool stuff there. There's some kind of links to our Bamboo crew on Facebook. We've got some links to testimonials and some really fun stuff. But the really most interactive part of this is the question and answer. And that's what I mentioned with Tessa. She's going to be looking through your questions. We're going to get to as many as possible by the end of the webinar. So if you want to check that out, want to make sure that that's working properly, just go ahead and say, hey, Tessa, type it in that, and she'll give you maybe a little virtual wave in the background. Also, with all webinars, the recording is going to be available, and we made this super simple. So it is just the same link, same registration that you're using already. So couldn't be any easier than that. With that said, let's go ahead and jump into the content. This is the stuff that we want you to kind of walk away with. As mentioned, we're talking specifically to audiences that are, maybe it's been a little bit of time since you revisited these configuration options. So our hope is that in talking about some of the stuff that's changed, it kind of rejuvenates you and makes you want to revisit that initial configuration, discover options you didn't know you had. And in the end, the reason why we think these things are important is because it helps streamline your workflow and enhance those processes, makes it better for your users, makes it faster for your users. So again, this is the walk away from today. But we want to keep the ball rolling and continue to do these kinds of webinars and meetings with everybody. So I appreciate you joining us today. So let's jump into our first topic. If you were starting Asset Panda today and having your first conversation with one of our onboarding specialists, one of the first places we might visit is your company settings. Now, company settings in the web lives under configuration and company settings. And the stuff that we get some feedback on for people who have been with us for a couple of years include changing the logo. We've got some clients out there that they have expanded. They are different. They offer new services. They've got a nice new customized logo, and they're still walking around with this old, 2017 logo. Go ahead and go into your configuration company settings. You can edit that, update that. You can change it, make sure that that's most current. Another thing that we get is a question about the favorites bar. Now, this is often referred to as the submenu in your Asset Panda web account. And if you need to move things around, if you realize that you click things in a particular order or your workflow means that you're going from one group to the next, and you can absolutely kind of drag and drop and move those around. If there's something that you never click on, if you don't go to your calendar, you can kind of get that off of your dashboard. You don't necessarily need to have everything just as it comes out of the box. We want you to like what you see and like your workflow. And this one's a pretty big one. This is by popular demand. If you are not concerned about session timeouts with regard to your security settings, underneath your company settings here, you can also control now your security timeout. So if you wanted to keep it at 15 minutes because of whatever safety regulations or security regulations, that's great, but you can extend it up to 1 hour now. So that's really cool. That was something that we did because people were asking for it. So we love your feedback. We love being able to make changes like that. Let me take just a moment to kind of temperature check everybody, because we're going to be going into a couple of slides that talk about the folks who can log into the account. We refer to those as users. So just out of curiosity, take a few minutes and kind of guesstimate for us, how many people do you think are actively logging into your account? And these are users who have a password and they get in. Not the full amount of people who you have. You may have a million users in your account, but how many do you think are actually active? Take a second. Let us know what you think about that poll question. And while we're doing that, let's just take a second to kind of roll in and talk about the user configuration. Now, the user configuration, remember, these aren't the folks in a group. This isn't a personnel group that you make. It's not just capturing data about people. Your users are those guys and girls who can actually log in. So this lives under configuration. It lives underneath your user configuration. And the very first and probably most important thing I can suggest to you guys is to deactivate, do not delete.
Hey guys, Alex here. Just think we're having a little bit of audio technical difficulties on Erica's side, so bear with us for just a minute, and she'll be right back on. Just give us 1 second. All right, guys. I'm just going to go ahead and pick up and run from here. Erica's going to continue working on the audio side of things. So thanks for being patient. Yeah, so user templates. This lives under the configuration user templates section of your software. This is one of the most important pieces of Asset Panda, as it's going to allow you to easily modify at scale what types of features people have access to in the system. It's great not just from a security perspective, hiding certain information that might be confidential, but also from a usability perspective and saying, hey, these people only need to be able to see certain types of information that makes their job a lot easier. When they log in, they're only going to see the fields they need, the workflow they need, things like that. Diving deeper into account and my settings, you're going to be able to do a lot of different things here, like reset the password, customize list fields. They've actually got a new feature now where you can do custom list fields based on the user template or user permission. So if one person wants to see certain columns of information when they first log into the system, you can cater it that way, and another person can have a totally different view. It used to be if you made a change to list fields, everyone just kind of had to have the same layout. That's no longer the case. Also can set up a default landing page now whenever a user logs in. So if a particular user deals more with inventory or maybe things like work orders and tickets, that can be their home page, so to speak, in Asset Panda, versus logging in and landing on something like.
Let's take just a few minutes and talk about My Settings. Now, My Settings are one of those areas of Asset Panda that can absolutely be restricted. So if you don't want your users or some of your users to have this access, you absolutely can change that. And that can be done by an administrator on your account through their personal settings or even by the template. But for those users who do have access, the My Settings area that lives underneath the account menu can give them a little bit more ownership of their Asset Panda account and a little bit more control over what happens when they log in. What we want you to do is focus account My Settings and just kind of take a look at Miss Jane Panda here. She's one of our fake accounts. The idea is that if she needs to, she could log in and she could change things like her name or phone number. If she's on assignment and she's working in a different time zone for a week or a month, we could change what time zone she's working in. We also get to choose something really cool. Is where do I go once I log in? Now, she has it set to come right here to her settings, but you can drop that down to any group. So if you've got a user who consistently goes right to your assets group or right to your locations, you absolutely can say, you know what, we're going to save you the shortcut. Just go right where you're going to need to be. Now let's talk for just a moment about why somebody might want to come to their settings as opposed to going into a group where they can actually perform workflow. Well, one of the biggest reasons is that depending on how you set up your account, we can have users linked to objects. So if that's how you set up your account, where we have a specific user that's set up to link to a particular asset or a record, then she can just simply look here underneath that linked tab. And you know what? These hyperlinks do work. So if she needs to say, hey, how's that sticker doing? I can go ahead and click on that view. I can open up a second tab on my browser and go right to that cute little panda sticky there. So the idea is that sometimes people really enjoy just coming here to this kind of home page for themselves that they set up. You'll also notice that we can customize somebody's view of a group. Now this is a little bit new for Asset Panda. I'm going to open up another browser here. The idea is that if we go to a particular group, these guys up here, these columns are called list fields. Think of them like a favorites bar. And sometimes we find that clients, some users need to see different values than others. If I were in the finance department, for example, I might need to see these currency fields and numeric fields. If I'm in the maintenance department, maybe dates are more important. So because we can only have 10, it's difficult to go to group settings and set them one and done for everybody. So the idea now is if you go into list fields, you can actually expand the group that you'd like to change and edit that by the user, not just the entire company. And as always, you can bring over up to 10. You can drag and drop and move these around. And once you save, you'll have a different experience, and you'll see those headers when you go visit a particular group. Oh, another area here in our account in my settings, a little bit underutilized, is actually the defaults. And the cool thing about defaults is it allows users to say, I'm going to shave a little bit of time off my day if I'm doing data entry in some way, if I'm using my actions, or if I'm entering new objects. I want to go ahead and default some things. So Miss Jane here is defaulted to the Panda gym. We'll just pretend that that's her wheelhouse and where she spends the bulk of her time. And what that is going to result in is if I'm going into a group where maybe I'm entering a new object, and that is part of entering that new object. Maybe it's a category that allows us to have a location, it's going to automatically default it. So Jane doesn't even have to worry about this. If she needed to change it, we absolutely have that option. She can drop that down and switch it. A little bit of flexibility there. She has access to any of those. And you know what? The same is actually true for actions. So if you have an action to move something from one location to another, and you've got a foreman, maybe Jane's working as a facilities manager for this particular location, performing a particular action that affects your locations, then it's automatically going to default. But guess what? If it's not the default, you can still change. So it doesn't affect everybody. It just affects that individual user. So lots of really cool stuff going on. If you've given your users the option to go to account and my settings, like I said, update their password, choose where they go, kind of customize it, give it a little bit of feel, really helps them feel like they're taking ownership of this account. Really can speed up their day by saving them some clicks. So really cool options underneath account settings.
All right, perfect. Sorry about the confusion there, guys. I forgot we had that video coming up to play for us here. So let's do another pulse here really quickly, and a quick poll for everybody out in the audience. Are you guys currently using group actions or enhanced actions to work faster? And just a reminder here, the enhanced actions are really going to allow you guys to get the most out of sort of reversing the standard workflow in Asset Panda. Traditionally, you kind of got to select your records first and then the action that you're going to perform. But enhanced actions are going to allow you to first choose the action and then select the assets that you're going to perform that action against. The great thing about that, not only does it help kind of speed things up a little bit, but it's also going to self-select the assets that are available for that type of action. So as an example, if I'm doing a checkout action and I select checkout first, the list of assets that are going to be available to me will only be items that are eligible for checkout. So for those of you in the audience who have experience with group scan and group actions, if you had scanned an item for checkout, previously the system would allow you to say, okay, well, you can scan this item and then I'll tell you it's not available. But with these enhanced actions, it's just going to take that off the list right up front. So helps save you guys a lot of time. Enhanced actions also allow you to choose blanket fields that will stay the same across multiple items. So if we're moving multiple things to a single location, or assigning it all to the same person or updating a condition. Rather than having to reselect that information over and over and over, we can pick it once, lock it in, and just continue working. So our poll results here, are you guys using group actions or enhanced actions to work faster? Looks like, whoa, about 50% of people in the audience are not using actions at all. So that's for one, it's definitely interesting, but we've got a lot of room for growth and improvement there. So make sure, when you went through implementation and onboarding, we probably set up a couple actions there for you guys. You can pop into the configuration tool and build out some of your own. It's a great way to help speed up workflow and store the history of all of the work that you're doing in your Asset Panda account. All right, so next up we're going to talk about sorting for faster search. This is one of those things that it seems really, really small at first, but it's a definite wow factor for a lot of folks. Basically, if you're on your listing screen, you'll notice that you have something called expand collapse assets by. And this can be used in a lot of different ways. Most commonly, the way that we've seen it is by category, person, or location. So what it'll do is it'll take that list of all of these items that you've got and kind of squish it down into just the groupings, and you can see the total number off to the right. This allows you to quickly see quantity of those group records, which is super useful, get a kind of catalog style view, and you can actually apply multiple filter options at once. So you can expand and collapse using these radio buttons. You can also use each of the column headers from your list view as a means of applying an additional filter. So maybe I want to group my items by location and also filter it by status and maybe even a warranty expiration date. I want to see all my items in Panda headquarters that are available and have a warranty expiring in the next week, something like that. So it's kind of quick ad hoc reporting. Another newer feature with Asset Panda is color coding. This is always beneficial to draw people's attention to a specific field or section of the page. Great for setting up thresholds on values. So you can see on the right there the example of doing a color based on a numeric value. So a lot of our clients track things like the number of times an item has been repaired, number of times the item has been damaged, and that number just keeps ticking up. And you can set a threshold there that says, all right, if this goes beyond 5, 10, or in this case, 199, the color on that field needs to turn red. We need to know immediately that something's going on there. You can also do things based on setting colors for dates or just color coding fields in general. All right, guys, that brings us to our Q&A section. So I'm going to turn things over to Tessa to bring up some of the fantastic questions.
Hey there, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. And thanks so much for sharing a bunch of your questions with me. I've tried to go through and respond to a lot of you as time has gone by, but you have so many wonderful questions that I wanted to take time and answer them more thoroughly here. So a lot of your questions are actually about that group scanning and doing the group actions. So on your online version of Asset Panda, you can use the check marks on the left side of your listing screen to select multiple items at a time. And that'll allow you to then see a blue button in the top right corner of your screen that says group action. That way you can select a bunch of items and check them all out to one user. What I might say is even the faster way is to go ahead and use your mobile device. So you've got those wonderful barcodes on your items and you've got your Asset Panda mobile application. You'll be able to go ahead and use that application. Under your tools, you have a group scan button and you're able to scan multiple items at a time. Once you hit group scan, that little camera is going to pop up for you and you can just boop, boop, boop and get all of those great items that you may be issuing to your new team member, scan them all out to them and do your checkout action from there. So the group actions are a wonderful method to make things go much more quickly for you. There are some great questions here about enhanced actions as well. So when you're looking at that configuration option, you're able to see some new toggles there to allow you to enhance those awesome actions that you already have. So you'll be able to go ahead, pop in there, use those toggles to say, hey, there might be some variables here. Maybe I do want that to pop up. I want to select my action before I choose my items. So you'll be able to do that when you go to the configuration of those actions. And just remember, that's going to be under configuration and group settings. You'll be able to go ahead and update those actions to do it. Once you've updated those actions, then you'll be able to use those wonderful enhancements. You guys have had some awesome questions about some company settings items as well since we started the webinar talking a little bit about those. So one of the things that people have asked is, how do we manage the session timeout settings? And that is one of those newer features. It's one of my favorite new features. So when you do go to configuration and click on that company settings area, you'll be able to go ahead and scroll down. It's kind of in the middle of your page almost, and it does say just manage security session timeout ? Basically what you're saying to that is, yes, I want to manage it myself. Once you say yes, you're going to be able to determine when it times out after inactivity. There have also been some great questions about changing your password if you have to do that every 3 months. And this is a great point where I would encourage everyone, if you want to change that, just go ahead and give our support team a call. Some of you have already pointed out that our support staff is awesome, and they really, really are. So live chat them, send them an email, ask them to extend that password change. They'll be able to give you some more tips on it and help you take care of that as well. And there have been some awesome filtering questions in the system as well. When you are looking at that screen that Alex showed us where you have that expand and collapse by, one of the questions there is there a limit to those filters that we can combine? This is where, y'all always hear me say, technically, the answer is no, there's not really a limit. But practically, we do want to kind of make sure that it's an easy thing for you guys to do. So my recommendation is to use one of those great expand or collapse by options, maybe 2 or 3 of those filters to really narrow your list down. Technically, you can stack a bunch on there, but I do recommend just kind of focusing your attentions on specific areas there. Let's see here. One of the questions that I love here is about importing a user with a user template already on there. And I think that is one of the best questions because it's really going to allow you to make that new user portion go a lot quicker, a lot more easily. Alex likes to pop in and talk about users a bunch and that great ability for unlimited users in Asset Panda because it does help you with your data so much. So when you are adding in those new users, if you choose to do that import process, you'll be able to use your spreadsheet, import to the user configuration area. If you choose to, you can have a column on that spreadsheet that talks to that user template. My pro tip for you guys here on this one is just make sure that the name of the template on your spreadsheet is exactly the same as what you have in your Asset Panda template area under configuration user templates. It is looking for those to be identical. So the same thing that we recommend for other imports, just make sure that that language is the same there for you, and you'll have a pretty successful area there. Now, you guys have a lot of fantastic questions also about just, making sure that how do I get access to all of these areas? There may be some things here that you're seeing that maybe you haven't seen before in Asset Panda. And there are a lot of great updates to the system. And I know that sometimes that comes with a question of, why can't I see it? And I've seen a couple of those today. So my recommendation, guys, is to go and make sure that you're talking with your company administrator of your account. They'll be able to go ahead and make sure that you have access to all of the areas that you need. It's probably in your user permissions in your templates. The joy of Asset Panda is that it doesn't make assumptions. So just because there's something new added to your account, it doesn't say, oh, hey, I'm just going to guess that everyone should have access to that. So you'll be able to just talk to your administrators and make sure they give you access. So when you're not seeing that company settings under configuration, that's probably why. So guys, I know that we're kind of coming close to our time today. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you so much for all of these questions that you've shared with us. Some of you are also asking if these are going to be downloadable and accessible afterward, and absolutely, you definitely will find those after the presentation, so you can revisit all of this great information. So I just want to thank you again very quickly. You'll be able to access all of this afterward. And I do just want to remind you, because I didn't get to every one of your incredible questions today, don't forget to check out our support portal. You're going to be able to find that in the top right of your screen where you see that great support area. You can click on support portal to navigate around our knowledge base, watch all of the great videos. And don't forget to reach out to our incredible support team. Many of you have commented how wonderful they are. They truly are, and they're excited to help you in any way they can. So don't forget to email them at support@assetpanda.com or use that great little live chat button in the bottom right corner of your screen, and they'll be there to help you out whenever you need. So thank you guys again for your time today. Y'all have a wonderful day, and we'll be looking forward to talking to you guys soon.